I need the mic? Okay, perfect. So I'm John, like Elsa introduced, and this is my partner, Brendan. I was like you guys sitting in this chair 10 years ago, I think, at this point. And I graduated, like you said, with a degree in IST. And I worked in the tech consulting industry for 5 years. I did various projects I did Southwest Airlines in Dallas, Texas, and I worked at Comcast Cable in Philadelphia for 4 years. And I realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do, being in the big corporate world. It has a lot of perks, but it also has a lot of downsides. So I started an online retail business kind of as a joke with a buddy of mine and with a proof of concept product. And it worked, and I realized that there was a lot of opportunity doing online retail. And so I started LaBrinx Designs in 2014 to try to make something new in this world. So who am I and why should you guys care? So like I said, I started LaBrinx Designs. That's my parent company. I also started Swagasaurus Rex, which sells a lot of novelty, kind of goofy goods online. And I also partnered with Brendan for Zesties, who I actually met at last year's Startup Week, sitting in this classroom and had a lot of very valid questions. So I don't want to say that I'm a wild success or anything, and I'm not trying to brag or any of that, but these businesses are doing very well. LaBrinx Designs and Swagasaurus did about $350,000 in sales last year, and Zesties, I think, is on track to do that this year, fingers crossed, if everything goes well. So I have somehow become an Amazon expert, which is not at all where I wanted to be, but you might be asking, what am I selling? And this is where I lose a lot of people when I try to explain what I do, and my parents are just utterly disappointed. They're like, why did we send this guy to college? Because I'm selling magnets and kind of novelty goods online. So so this is a longer class, is that, we have 70 minutes? Okay. So this kind of started as a joke, like I said. So the American flag cape, I was with a buddy of mine at not the Kentucky Derby, but the other horse race is the Preakness. And if you've never been to one of those, everyone's in the Derby outfits with the big hats, and they all have costumes. There was a guy in an Evel Knievel outfit, and my buddy and I were like, that cape is awesome, we want to get some. So we looked online on our phones and tried to buy an American flag cape, and in 2014 there was 0 places online that you could buy an American flag cape. And we were kind of perplexed by that because this is America, and we were like, this shouldn't be. So we made a joke. We were like, well, what if we got them made somewhere and tried to sell them online? So we joked about it, and then the following week we were like, well, what if we did it? It can't be that hard to do. What if we just threw something up online and tried to do it? So we found a company in China that could make American flags, and then we custom designed like a clasp mechanism, and we did a custom pattern, and we contacted them and we ordered 500 units. So we imported everything, and we listed them on our own website. So we created a website, freedomcapes.com, and we thought we had a gold, like an actual like winning product, and we put it up and we started marketing. We put it on Facebook. We told all our friends, and next thing you know, we had about 2 sales. Nobody bought them. We had no luck on our own site, and we were like, okay, this was the dumbest idea we've ever done. So we were like, well, we probably shouldn't have. We dropped like, I think like $2,000. We each threw $1,000 in to start the business, and we were like, okay, well, and then we had already told all our friends, so everyone kept asking, how's the cape business? And we're like, oh, it's going. So we're like, okay, maybe we can sell them on eBay. So we knew that was the big marketplace at the time. So we listed them on eBay. Again, nobody buys on eBay. So we were like, okay, that didn't work. Well, where are people buying online? So we were like, okay, Amazon seems to be pretty good. Let's try to figure out how to sell them on there. So We listed them. And it was a very slow building product, but suddenly we started selling quite a bit. So we went from we had 500 units and had sold like 3. And then that summer we sold all 500 and then had to reorder another 2,000. And we sold about half of those. So that for me was kind of an indicator of like, there's something to this. It's kind of the oldest business model that's ever been around, which is get a product in front of someone. It's a physical good that's valuable to a person, and then market and advertise it and put that all online. So we did that. He was a good friend of mine, but he wasn't the best business partner, to be frank. And so what I did is I saw that this worked. There was something to it. And so I did the Game Boy magnet set that's on the right there. So I designed that with a magnet factory in China and did the packaging and everything. And I listed that. And by show of hands, how many people have seen that Freezer Boy magnet set prior to this class? Nobody? Okay. So what happened was I ordered 500 units of that and posted it on Reddit and posted it on different things, and it went super viral. And I sold 500 units in 2 weeks. So I thought, oh my God, I'm sitting on a gold mine. This is fantastic. And so I decided that I was going to go all in. So I ordered 5,000 units. And one thing I didn't know at the time, and this is just like life experience, is that when something goes viral, it goes way up and it gets all this massive attention. And then as soon as the next week comes by, everybody forgets about it and there's no attention to it, more or less at all. And it's also very hard to make something go viral more than once because everyone gets bored online. They're like, oh, I saw that last week. Like, I'm just not interested. So I ended up ordering 2 years worth of inventory with those 5,000 units, and I got stuck with, I'll show you in this slide. My apartment was a complete mess. So it was literally filled with to the brim with boxes of unused inventory. And my girlfriend was not happy that I had basically ruined our living situation for magnets. So anyway, these are kind of all various products that I'm selling. And I don't think that I'd suggest to anyone to do something similar to this because I don't know how replicatable this is. But I will, what I do want to explain are the core basics that anyone could apply to an online business. And a lot of people tend to overcomplicate it, but it's a pretty simple business model. So basically you find an idea of a product that isn't out there in the world, or an idea for something that you wish existed that for whatever reason isn't easy to buy, or there's some barriers to, like even if you find a product that doesn't seem trustworthy, because there's a lot of that on Amazon where you're like, oh, I don't like the way that like the English is all broken and the images are very, like, it just doesn't look like the product in the picture and I don't trust it. You basically have to have an idea and validate that there's demand there. So by the way, anyone feel free to interrupt me with questions. I feel like I'm kind of throwing a lot of information out at you. So if anyone has any comments, questions, if not, I'll keep going. But feel free to stop me at any time. If
For your distribution, did you partner with anyone else, or you just figured you'd go it alone at first?
So what's really interesting, so originally we were doing it on our own. So like I said, I had a corporate job. Every lunch break, I'd have to run with like envelopes full of capes, and I'd have to run to the post office every lunch and mail them out because we were getting orders and fulfilling ourselves. One thing that's amazing in this day and age, and people who are not in the Amazon world don't realize the amount of power and influence they have and kind of control of logistics. They handle all of that for you. So anything that's online as Amazon Prime, it means that that inventory is stored in an Amazon fulfillment center, and they have total control of shipping it to the customer, packaging it, returns, like labeling, all of that. They handle for you. And it's pricey. They take a third of whatever you're selling it for. But what it allows you to do is you can delegate that entire process that would be extremely barrier to entry for like a single person, that you can delegate all of that to their system. Like AWS, I assume you guys are more familiar with that. Amazon Web Services, you can delegate all of the things to start up a website to Amazon, and it frees you guys up as entrepreneurs to then go and do the hard stuff and like the stuff that is out of your control. So Amazon's done the same thing for shipping and fulfillment. So in this graph, they do. So you set up the listing on their marketplace. They already are doing the marketing for you because they're pulling people onto their platform. And so everybody's kind of using Amazon to buy. So they've done, like, yeah, you list it and you can market and drive traffic to it, but they have a captive audience of like, it's like staggering. It's like 300 million people online, or I guess it's probably 200 million people that only purchase on Amazon. So they have this piece. They literally, when you ship all your inventory to their warehouses, so my apartment doesn't look like that anymore. In fact, I don't even see the inventory. I have an inspector go and check it for me. But they send it all to their FBA fulfillment centers, Fulfillment by Amazon. And then they handle like first tier customer service, but I also handle, I try to get them to go through me because I can be more flexible and give them refunds. Amazon customer service is a little, it's a little static and inflexible. They tend to just refund and like they make it difficult for the customer. So does that answer your question kind of?
Yeah. How about eBay? Like, what's the difference between working with Amazon and eBay? I guess with eBay you have to ship the goods yourself.
Yeah. So now I'm on eBay. So eBay you have to ship the goods yourself, and eBay is really good for used stuff, auctions of stuff that you just don't want anymore. And they're really good for all of the things that Amazon bans from their fulfillment network. So like fertilizer, that's a ban. Batteries, like things that Amazon won't let you ship without a bunch of like hazardous material permits. You can sell on eBay a lot easier. So they've kind of, Amazon's the centerpiece of literally all e-commerce now, and everything around it is kind of a spoke built off of Amazon. The only holdout is Walmart, and they're not adapting to the 21st century very well. So I have all my products on Walmart, but they don't have the marketplace that Amazon does. It's like maybe 2 to 5% of anything that you sell on Amazon. So I guess, okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
How does like Amazon taking 1/3 of your profits, like how does that affect your profits and also like your prices of your products?
That's a really good question. So I guess I was going to walk through this. When you get an idea, you just have to calculate the math. So like every idea you have should be run through a math formula of like, is there enough margin there for me to do it? You have to imply that Amazon's going to take 1/3 whenever you're doing your assumptions. Let me take a step back, I guess. When you have to find, the hardest part about all this is finding a manufacturer. So everybody uses Alibaba.com, which is a Chinese site that has all of their manufacturing factories available, and you can see samples of the products that they have for sale or that they can produce. So if you go on Alibaba, well, how many people have heard of Alibaba? Okay, so you guys at least are aware. So yeah, if you go on Alibaba, there's hundreds and hundreds of goods that you can find there, and it used to be a little more authentic. Now there's a lot of fake companies that put things that they produce that they really have no ability to do. But if you can find, that's the best place to find a Chinese factory. And if you can find a good factory, they'll give you a quote about how much you can charge per unit, and you can use that as your baseline to figure out, well, if I can get it for $250 and I can sell it for $14.99 and Amazon takes 1/3, that'll leave me with like $6 profit. But I would say anymore, people trust the Prime badge, and a lot of people won't even look at the non-Prime products on Amazon. So it's become a necessity as a seller that you have to use the Amazon warehouses, and you have to give 1/3 away. We tried it both ways. In fact, Brett and I were talking about using, like, mailing them ourselves. It's just, Prime gives you more traffic. So what Amazon does is if you put Prime there, they'll funnel people to the listing to buy. And if you don't have that Prime badge, it's a lot harder to get visibility on Amazon.
So like the value of the Prime badge is like
It really does.
enough for you.
Oh yeah, yep. Plus the headache of having to fulfill orders yourself. It's like it's a necessary. You just have to take that cost if you want to sustain your business. Because what it does is you can get caught up in like, yeah, I'm giving them a third and like they don't earn it and all that. But at the same time, it's just like AWS. It frees you up to do all the other stuff. So like you're giving away a third of your, or I don't know the pricing for AWS, but I know it's significant. You're delegating all that responsibility so that you can then focus on your business and run it yourself. Okay. Yep. Yep. So sorry if my presentation's all over the place, but yeah, feel free to ask questions if I'm skipping things. But basically here's what I do is, as an Amazon customer, I'll look for stuff that I need around my house, and if it's not there, I always make a note of that, and then I'll run the numbers on Alibaba to see if there's some sort of market there. So there's a tool that people have built off of Amazon that lets you estimate the demand for any product listed. So someone shout out an idea for a product that you have, or just like an item in your household if you don't want to be specific. Anybody can yell out any household product. A panini press. That's actually really good. All right. So a panini press is something that people know what it is and people buy them, but there's a total market that there's only so many people buying a panini press. So what you can do is you can go on Amazon and you can look up the existing panini press listings. So if you just type in panini press on Amazon, you'll get like 8 to 10 results, and it depends on how saturated. Maybe you'll have 400 results. And what you can do is you can click on that listing, and every listing has a ranking number. You can use that to figure out how many people are buying that panini press per month. So if you go on the panini press, I mean, we can actually see what, that's a good example. I do want to, it might make it a little more concrete if I can. I'm not on the Wi-Fi. Well, anyway, you guys can do it on your laptops, but the panini press will say there's 500 people buying panini presses every month. You can use that in your assumptions to say, all right, if there's 10 people selling panini presses, and I think I can get a higher quality panini press than all of those 10, and the top guy is selling 300 of those 500, and the lowest guy is selling 100 of those 500, I think I can hit in the middle and reasonably sell maybe like 150 to 200 a month. And so you kind of make your projections based on the best guy's doing this. If I can't beat the best guy and the worst guy's doing like 10 units, where do I reasonably think I can land? And so what you can do is you can calculate, well, panini presses, you can go on Alibaba and you can see, well, I can get them made there for $4 a unit, and the competition's selling for $19.99. So if I get it for $4, a third of $19.99 is going to be $6 something. Let's call it $7. And so you just do the math of like, if I sell 100 and I'm making $4 a unit, I could make $400 a month if this product is a success. And so that's really simplifying it, but that's basically the process of how I picked all my products, where I look at the demand, I look at how many things are out there, get an estimate of like, if this is a hit, I'll make $400 or $500 a month. If it's a flop, I'll be, worst case, I'll hit, $100 a month, or, at least I'll break even. And so just really it's this idea generation thing where you just kind of look at all the products on Amazon and just keep running the numbers before you do anything. So
John, just to add on to that, all this information, this is the best part about Amazon, it's all publicly available under the BSR, the best sellers rank. So it's a ranking on Amazon, and it's all publicly available information. And what he's talking about is using Jungle Scout to actually copy and paste the best sellers rank into a free resource on junglescout.com. And it'll tell you how many units they're selling a month on every single product on Amazon with a reasonable degree of accuracy. So, you could look up our products or any other products, and you can see how many they're selling a month. And that's just a good way to start and kind of assessing demand, and like Jon was talking
Yep.
about. But it's kind of like
Yeah. So if you've done that and you think you have a hit, and it's like, okay, I think, I can reasonably make $400 a month if this is a hit, and the downside of like, will I lose money? You always have to watch the downside, because I've had flops. Like, I guess if by any means I'm painting it that I'm all successful, I've had 5 or 6 flops, and I think even we were doing the jumpsuits, I think aren't gonna. Well, we'll see how that turns out. We need to market those better, but it is risky, so I don't think it's for everyone if you're not willing to be flexible and adaptive to the situation. I think if you can find a good idea, and so talking about demand, you can't change demand. That's something that I had to learn the hard way. Like, there are only 1,000 people a month buying panini presses. You can't really grow that pie. So like, there's only 1,000 people in the United States every month that buy one. You can't make that 2,000. It's literally 1,000, and everybody's fighting over the same 1,000 sales. And so it's kind of this, it's a piece of an overall pie, and to grow that pie to even 1,500 is a lot of marketing dollars, and you really have to, you got to have some funds behind you to get people to want something that they previously didn't want. So if you guys are thinking about doing this, don't think you can change the demand for a product that's already existing, because you can't. So sourcing, honestly, is the hardest part. There's a lot of really, really good Chinese factories that are really humble and trying to work with American companies. And then there's a lot of people who are trying to also get rich quick, and they're trying to scam who are gullible. So Alibaba is filled with a healthy mixture of both. And there's also a lot of middlemen that pretend that they can get the product, but they really don't own a factory. They're just kind of brokers, salespeople. So you really have to be a little careful with how you're doing that to find a quality product. Brendan actually, so we had an idea to do Zesties together, and I just couldn't find a manufacturer that I could trust. And Brendan came up to me after the presentation and said, if I can find a manufacturer for this product, would you go 50-50 on it with me? And I was like, yes, definitely. If you can, the hardest part is finding a quality manufacturer. And if you can do that, the rest of it is just, it solves a lot of the future problems that you have for the rest of things. If you have a factory that can work with you and adapt to the product, so like a lot of times they'll give you a product, you'll start selling it, you'll realize the flaws it has because you'll get negative reviews. You want to be able to fix those flaws for the next run so that you have happier customers, and you need a factory that's willing to change and be flexible with it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so that process is called an RFQ, a request for quotation, to make it sound fancy, but it's essentially going on Alibaba, and they have like criteria. And I just reached out to, I think, like 7 or 8 different factories and had a list of like, can you put a logo on it? Can you do this? Are you a trading company or the actual manufacturer? And then I'd actually include in an attachment an additional question to each manufacturer. And the ones that actually responded to the question in the attachment that I included, I vetted as like, wow, those are the factories that are willing to listen. Those are the factories that really care about, delivering good service. So that was just a little, tip that and all 3 of the factories that we've actually found, 2 in China, 1 was in India, they're all excellent. So it just kind of came down to narrowing down to 1, and that came down to price for us, and then just responsiveness. But that was just a little bit more into that process.
Yeah, and it's tough, but trying to get stuff made in America was impossible before, and that's starting to change now. Without getting into politics, but if you guys are more connected and you know a lot more people, being in college, if you can find an American factory that can manufacture something, you don't have to pay the shipping costs to get it from China because it's made here. So yeah, the price and the labor will be a little more expensive, but American manufacturing also automates the process. We get a lot more intelligent machinery. So it's offset in that it's made in America and the labor's more, but we automate it so we don't need the labor piece. It's just kind of getting a factory to mass produce. So that I think is a big opportunity on Amazon if you can get something made in America again. So importing, so I'm assuming that this is based on importing from China. That's tricky, and if you're just starting out, you want to ship everything by air, so you would just tell the factory in China, ship them by air. It's more expensive, but you don't have to worry about customs. So I didn't know this going in, but for whatever reason, they only do customs and import and all the other complex getting into the country part on sea shipments that come in by boat. If you just fly it by plane, they don't really check because you're not doing it in scale or at volume. So if you just tell them ship it by air, you get it the next week. It's really pretty straightforward. But long term, that is completely unsustainable because it's about 4 times the cost. So you're going to have to ship it by sea in a big storage container, and you want to find a freight forwarder who will help you import those goods into the U.S. because I try to do it myself, and you just can't. You need one. So then once you have it in the country, you want to list it on Amazon's marketplace, become an Amazon seller. If you're just doing it as a single person, I think it's free or $10 a month, and you upgrade to a professional account, it's $40 a month. So it's really not hard to list something on Amazon's website. You just photos, like really good copy and product descriptions, and just like good content. And then if you give them good content and good images and it's a quality product, you can really have a lot of success on Amazon. It's when people try to shortcut and have a junky product that they pretend is good, or they try to like people try to cut corners, and there really isn't any of that anymore. You just have to run a really quality, legit business that has really good customer service and creates a great product. So.
Yeah, just one other thing.
Yeah.
When you said anybody can do it, you don't even have to start your own business. If you have a social security number, you could be an Amazon seller. We registered as an LLC just for tax purposes, and we were a partnership. But like a single seller, you literally just need a social security number. There's like probably a little verification process, but it's super easy. Just kind of
Yeah, and so then a lot of it is listing and marketing it, and then Amazon does the fulfillment for us because we're doing the Prime warehouse, and then customer service Amazon will do, but it's much better that we do it ourselves. So like we'll put inserts in the products to say contact us before Amazon, because we're much better at handling our customers than what Amazon does, because Amazon, they're good, but there's a lot to be desired. So that honestly, that's pretty much the whole process. A lot of people like to make it really complex. You just have to find an existing niche, a niche that just for whatever reason isn't available online, and follow those 7 steps. So that being said, are there any questions, or did I lose anyone in my long rambling speech? No?
Well, you said it was unsustainable to go buy air abroad. How would you know when to switch to is it when you find like a freight forwarder then you would switch?
Mm-hmm. Let me take a step back. So the flying it by air is the unsustainable piece. So say we're Panini Press, you find a Panini Press factory, you order 500 units. To just get them there, get them to you within a week, you just tell them to deliver them air by plane express, and they'll arrange the shipping for you. You can tell the factory like change it, DHL, and then they'll mail it to you. What you'll find is if you get 500 Panini presses through the air, it'll cost you like $30,000 or $3,400 in shipping, and it'll get there fast, and it lets you prove the concept, but long term you're going to want to do it by sea. So that same cost, 500 units through ocean freight, it'll take 60 to 90 days, but it'll cost you like $800. So it's significantly cheaper. It just means you have to go through customs, and you have to also wait like 2 months. So
So it's like you're trying to prove your product or your concept.
Yep.
You're doing like the air just to get the products in, and then once you develop it,
Yep.
you go through it.
Yep, and you always get something wrong. So like, even if you think you've designed it really well, you'll find customers are either confused by the packaging, or you like stuff that you thought through, you missed. So like I have a shelf set that I didn't put a rim on, so it's like a suction cup shelf you can stick on a window. I didn't put a lip on the end, so people were complaining, so I had to go back and change it. And then they were saying it was leaning, so I had to prop the bottom up, and I had to work through it a few iterations before I got it right. The design piece, so I'm not a product designer, and I'm not an engineer, and in no way do I know how to do any of that, but all of these factories in China have an on-site engineer who will work with you to design the product. Okay, I should say that again. Not all of them have engineers. The legitimate factories have engineers. The people who are middlemen and don't really have their own factory won't be able to accommodate any of those requests. But if you find a legitimate factory, they have an engineering staff. So if you can just, like a lot of these we would do in Photoshop, we would just draw what we wanted it to be, or you could just, like in Paint even, or you take a picture of the existing product and you can draw on, your iPhone has that markup tool now, you can just draw on the picture and say, I want this to be like that, or I want it to have the piece that's missing on it. So I don't think you have to be a product designer, you just have to understand the niche that's missing on Amazon.
And not at all, honestly. Like I have zero. I hired a guy. The first few Photoshops we had to do, I hired a guy for 50 cents an image on Fiverr to do all our Photoshop work. So I was like, I don't know how to do this, but here's a guy, and I forget where he's from. He does it 50 cents an image, beautifully done. So I'm like, it's funny because like you don't have to know how to do anything to be successful in a way. You just have to know how to be resourceful. And I think that's maybe the biggest piece. Like my skill set I was a finance major here. I still am. I study finance, but I had zero like IST background. I didn't know how to work computers very well, and here I am stumbling into an e-commerce business, kind of like clanking my way around. Like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And just kind of learning along the way, hiring people along the way, and using resources and online videos and things like that. All out there, all the information you ever need to start something like this.
Yeah, and there's a lot. You don't have to know everything, but you have to know what you don't know, and you have to find someone who's trustworthy who can give you that piece that you don't know. So like our businesses are like a hodgepodge of different services. So like Amazon being the main one with the fulfillment, but like we have different software that people have created off of Amazon that help sellers that handle a lot of the things for us. So like we ask for feedback, like we ask for reviews. We have a service that does that on our behalf. What else do we use? Oh, like tax section. We have to figure out tax, use software for that. We like profit calculations a lot. You're going to want to delegate that because it becomes overwhelming to see how much money you're actually making, because it's a little tricky. It's trickier than it seems. Go ahead.
Do you use Shopify?
Yeah. So I guess I'll just explain the e-commerce landscape from someone who's been selling. Amazon is the behemoth that, honestly, they're at the point where they're so big that at some point that I think someone's going to have to step in. But they have like 80% of online sales. In fact, I have a stat of 90, but I don't want to say that if it's not true. But they have so far the majority that nobody else can compete. So what you have is Amazon. You have Walmart, who's pretending they are number 2, but they're pretending that they're like 1 and 2 when really it's 1. And Walmart has, I think, about like 8% of all online sales. So they're close, but it's 8% to 80. And then the rest, actually eBay has more than Walmart right now. They have, I want to say 10 or 11%. And so Shopify is your question. So Shopify, people don't understand that platform because I didn't at all. Honestly, all Shopify is just like a Squarespace or a Wix. It sets up the website for you, but it's your website. You're not selling on like the Shopify marketplace. It's literally your website powered by Shopify. And so we use that for our own individual sites. And Shopify, honestly, if you're going to invest in a stock, that I think is the only real competitor to Amazon, because it's all these single sell businesses that are creating their own site. That we set that up in like an hour. You have your own professional looking site with very minimal effort. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, good.
So does that like generate sales for you? Is it like
Oh,
just like
so very good question. We've gotten, it's hard to convert off of Amazon, like ROI, return on investment. So the online advertising space is really tricky because like there's only 3 players. It's Facebook, Google, and Amazon has their own advertising within their platform. So you're really just with Facebook and Google as the 2 avenues that people regularly will go on that can drive traffic to your site. And if you don't know how to get traffic from either of those channels to your website, it's literally not going to be seen. Like everybody's on Facebook, Google, and like Reddit, and like if you're not on any of those, you just aren't really shopping for anything or seeing other sites. So your question was, how do you get traffic to your site, or say it again? We do sales, and so we're not that good at Facebook ads yet. We still got to figure that out, because you can get a lot of traffic on Facebook, but to get it so that if I'm spending $10 on Facebook, I'm getting $11 back, it's hard. It's really hard to convert profitably. So we've got Google Shopping, which is when you type into Google the images all at the top that are just pictures of different products. We have that going, and that's where we're driving all of our Shopify sales. So that's converting actually pretty well.
And I think we were in Las Vegas last week, and it was like an Amazon sellers conference. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I would ask people like, what % is Amazon? What % is your own website? Almost everybody, it's like 95 Amazon, 5 our own website.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of deep down knows it's like a little bit of because you're giving Amazon all your sales data, all your customer data. You're running it through them, but at the same time, they like have almost such a monopoly over supply chain and fulfillment that it's like they have like a chokehold on the entire e-commerce game in a way.
Yep.
And here's a bunch of successful sellers, smart people who like can't seem to shift that trend. The best I heard was 70-30, 70% of sales through Amazon, 30% through your website. But I think that's something that like we want to continue to shift to, because we get a higher profit margin, more customer data. You just have more control over your own website than on Amazon, and that's I think that's a limitation with Amazon.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that Amazon does, so this is probably losing some people, but you hide all their customers, even no access to it. And there's a lot of stuff on Facebook using your data and all of the things that, like, oh, my privacy. But from the people who are trying to like exploit that, all I'm trying to do is get our product in front of the kind of person that would want it. So like we have customers who buy from our site, we get like their name, their data, whatever. We feed that back into Facebook, and it'll show us not those people, but Facebook has an anonymous randomizer of people who have similar traits. And so you put in, here are the 100 customers that bought from our site. You feed that to Facebook. Facebook just does some computations and says, here's another 100 people that are similar to in characteristics to the people who bought. And so what I try to do is target people with those characteristics. And there's not really anything nefarious. It's just I want to get the ads in front of the kind of person who wants to see the ad. So like we were doing advertising, we were putting in front of people that if it doesn't do anything for them, you're wasting your ad dollars. So it's interesting how. So another thing Amazon does, so they have total control of their customers, so they'll remarket to you really well. So like if you search something on Amazon, that ad follows you around the entire internet everywhere you go after that, and they've kind of saturated the market in that regard. It's interesting because I'll let you go. I could go forever. Yeah.
You have them make it for you. Like how much of your product base is custom like that, and how much of it is like where you're just reaching out to a company who already makes it completely for us to do the same, like we make this deal or something?
That's a great question. Ours are 100% custom based, so we can protect it. the other model of contacting a factory and just buying what they have and selling, what happens is that anybody can do that. And so if you have any sort of success on Amazon, hundreds of people will copy you and just put the exact same product up. So you have to have the ability to defend your listing on Amazon. And in order to do that, you have to put like your own brand name on it, or it has to have a unique piece that you can defend as this is ours and the intellectual property is mine. And you do that with just buying from a factory and selling. There is a lot of money in that. People do that, but it doesn't seem sustainable in my mind, because you'll get a win, you'll be like, oh wow, this is going great, and then you'll have 10, 15 people jump in, cut the margin down, undercut you, and then you're like, I just built this product up by marketing and advertising it, and then it gets ripped out underneath me. So does that answer?
Are your products then patented?
No, so I think patent law is so archaic, because the shelf life of a patent is 20 years, and we're rapidly improving technology so quickly that by the time you get it patented, which takes like at least 2 years, well, 1 to 2 years by the time you get the patent, by the time you can then defend it, it doesn't pay for itself. And then the other piece with that is that if you have a patent, the only good it is to you is that if you're able to sue the guy infringing, and that guy infringing will pay you damages that you win in court, which will take several years. So having a patent on, I think, anything that we could come up with in this room won't really help you for the future, unless you have something that's like, it's so unique and so like it's going to go so big. It doesn't make sense for an individual to patent anything anymore, in my mind.
So people then could, if they wanted to, contact other manufacturers or even the same manufacturer and send them your product idea and have them.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So here, where did I go on the slide? So those sunglasses that I make, hold on. Why is this not working? Yeah. Can you get to the main product slide? Yeah. Anyway, so I made these custom-made sunglasses. It's like the meme that's like thug life, like deal with it, and it comes from the sky. I'm sure you guys have seen memes. Someone in like Finland had made just like a acrylic one and was toting them around online, and it was really poorly done, and it was like $50 for a pair, and they were from Finland. And I was like, why isn't someone really designed this well and made it like a quality product? So the sunglasses up there. So I custom made a mold for that design. So there were similar things, but nothing that actually looked like the meme. So I contacted a factory. They made a custom mold that it's an injection molding. So for plastics, what they do is they make a big steel aluminum mold, and then they pump it with it fills up with the plastic material, and then it hardens, and then they can mass produce them. So I got a mold made for $1,000, custom figured out. The factory was able to do the paint on the lenses that it didn't scratch off. Did that whole thing, got up. It was a pretty good. And then either the factory tried to sell to someone else. Here's the thing about China. They have very different morals than the Western Hemisphere. So to them, they're just trying to make $1, and they don't really care. There's no, like, the concept of copying being bad isn't really in their culture. So for them, it's just, yeah, I'm going to just sell it to whoever. So either they sold it to them or someone bought it, and it's very easy to make another injection mold if you have the first product, because you just make the mold around the existing one. So regardless of how it happened, someone knocked those off entirely, and I now have, like, if you type in deal with it sunglasses on Amazon, there's now 10 people all selling it. And the way that I protect it is not through patents and not through like trying to sue anyone. It's by giving the best customer service, having the best images, having the most number of reviews, and just being, like, when you look at the competition, I have like 240 reviews on those, and then the copycats have like 13, and it just, yeah, they're undercutting on price, But most people, when they go, and like I'm selling those for $14.99. When most people go online, they tend to trust the one with the most reviews, and so that's how I protect it. So that's a very long way of saying I think the patent system doesn't afford the same protections as a brand, and having a brand that seems to be legitimate and establishes trust with customers.
How many products are you working on at like any
That's I think I overexpanded myself so like these are the cool ones. So surprisingly, this shelf, the suction cup shelf here, that has taken off. I think is my best hit, and kind of, I don't know. It's a very just a household good that people keep buying. I guess I'm surprised because some of this other stuff, what'll happen is they'll all kind of randomly go viral different times a year, and I'll get a ton of sales, and then it'll be slow again, and then someone will post it on Reddit, and it'll go viral, and it'll sell, and then it'll. Right now I have, I guess, 15 products total. The beauty of all this is once you set it up once, it's definitely not passive, but when you have it set up, you don't have to tweak it much if you do it properly. So like once it's up and selling, I haven't touched the sunglass listing in like a month or two, and it keeps selling without my input because people buy and leave positive reviews, so Amazon promotes it to the top, and then more people buy, and et cetera, et cetera.
Two-part question. Have you ever thought about like the branded route or just typically
Mm-hmm.
do you guys use like influencer marketing?
Great questions. The first one being branding, like, can you elaborate a little?
So like just selling
Like one category?
sport products or
Yeah. That's what everybody recommends is to do one type of goods, like pet goods, and do all pet goods, or like home goods and all home goods. And that's kind of what I've tried to do with the 3 brands. So like LaBrinx Designs is just vague, so you can throw anything at it, and it kind of makes sense. The problem I was having with Swagasaurus Rex is like that made a lot of sense for the goofy ones, but when I was trying to sell like chore charts, so what happened was I had a magnet factory. They were very good. It took me, I went through like 10 factories to find one that could really do this well. Once I had a good magnet factory, I was like, what magnet ideas can I do? So I did a chore chart. I had like a whiteboard, meal planner. I had a whole bunch of different magnet ideas with various levels of success. That smiley face. And so that was fine for Swagasaurus Rex, but that's kind of what I've tried to do is brand them in different categories. I think I don't know because I can only speak for my own business. This is working all over the place. I think people recommend one niche and becoming the leader there. So like shoes, and like we're really good at shoes, or like, so I think it works, and I've heard a lot of experts say pick a niche and like brand out because you can do like accessory products to the original thing. So does that answer?
I would just chime in too. I think
Yeah.
that's where like everything's. I think that's like the next level. I think this is like, I wouldn't say basic in a way, but like
Fair,
I think the
yeah.
next level is building like that brand equity. Where you want a shirt and you charge $30 extra because
Yeah.
of the logo. And I think the way you do that is through the kind of what we're working on now is building like social media presence, interacting with your customers through like emails and kind of surveys and things like that, free coupons, and it's kind of like building that kind of that following, and whether it's
Yeah.
through influencers as well. You actually have that,
Yeah, that you're working on that.
Yeah.
He's better at that than me.
but we're working on that and kind of trying to gain traction that way, so you can actually put a logo on something and charge more because of the logo.
You have to have a good fit for the brand influencer, so it has to make sense. So like, I've seen people do that with a lot of success, and I've seen people do it with they don't mesh, so it kind of becomes a waste of money because you do pay the brand influencers to promote your thing. So it works. It just has to be a good fit. No other question?
the corporate level impacted you to
Oh, that's I could talk a lot. I mean, I don't know if I'm losing people with this stuff, but I mean, I did the tech consulting route for 5 years. How did it impact me into doing this. I think what I learned on the job was to kind of really drill into the numbers and then like critical thinking to like really analyze what you're trying to do and be very thorough. Other than that, I kind of am not using what I learned from corporate America at all, other than, I guess what I will say I use is when you start working in corporate America and you have teams of like 30 people all trying to work on the same project, you see how one decision becomes broken down into all the pieces amongst 30 different people. So it'll be a very simple thing like, well, should we do it like this or like that? Like, should we go left or right? So it'll impact like 10 teams, and you'll get all those people, and they break down each of their perspectives of like the quality assurance people are like, well, it should be like this, and like the marketing people are like, it should be like that. And so I guess what you learn in the corporate world is how something that seems like a simple decision, really, if you break it down into if each person serves a role of that decision, you can kind of look at a problem with a lot more perspective. Does that kind of answer?
I'll take kind of a different look at that question.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure many of you guys have like worked internships. I was actually kind of asked to speak on. I'm a senior here. I played football here for 3 years, and then an injury ended my career. Still working with the football team. But I had an opportunity the last 2 summers to work in corporations. And what it just kind of showed me is like, not corporations by any means, but I didn't really like kind of like that big company feel where you sit in pointless meetings and like at least some pointless meetings, and you kind of like you have zero control over what you want to do. So it kind of motivated me into this space with Jon. I came out last year. I'd been like selling stuff, retail arbitrage, taking stuff from outlet malls and like selling it more on eBay and things like that. And I wanted to take it to the next level, and I said, okay, this is a reasonable step up. I'm not trying to invent Facebook or start this huge business where I need $300 and $300,000 in venture capital. I need a few $1,000s and some effort and energy, and that's what I did. And I kind of came to Jon and said, I'm really interested in working with you in this space because I think it's just an incredible place to start, and it's something that it was a motivator for me, knowing that like maybe someday, I have an opportunity to work on a couple other businesses after school, including this, and kind of put off the corporate world for a while. But it was something that was just a factor for me. I don't know if that's kind of a motivating force, but in a way.
It's tough because like having been in that world and kind of now on the small just individual trying to make it, you kind of see that the big corporations are, unless they have a defensible thing, they're kind of all shrinking because they're getting eaten away by all these small sellers coming up with little niche things. So like if you look at all of the big companies that sold a physical product, most of them have a like cheap knockoff counterpart, or not even cheap, like sometimes they're luxury, like a competitor on Amazon that's taking away from their market share. So you had these big giants of like Nike. They were the only real shoe company, and now there's all these shoe companies online that are taking parts of that market away. It's getting harder and harder for a company to get that big without being eaten away by all these individual sellers. So I think the future is going to be less giant corporations, except like Facebook, Amazon, Google, Apple, and the rest will be kind of like your generation, each running their own business, or like being part of a smaller company that's taking a specific niche of the online marketplace.
To that point, and I think that becomes possible. The more I've learned about like online marketing and selling products, half the stuff we buy online is complete like bullshit. Honestly, like it's fake. It's like I have friends that sell women's products, and they have like women models and things like that, and I'm like, there are a bunch of dudes doing it. Like you would think it's like I know a supplement company that takes quality supplements, markets them incredibly well, and they buy from a factory super cheap. I've actually spoken to their factory, and they just market it really well, and they charge like $40 a bottle, and it blows my mind the more I learn about kind of online marketing. Yeah. It's literally just the way you position yourself online is everything. It's perception. More so than product. It's a mixture of both product and perception. But and it kind of opens up the door for smaller sellers. You don't need to have a team of 100 people to be successful. You need a camera and some creativity and an internet connection to make some actual real money and kind of take it to the next level. That's at a fast pace. And that's why this experience for me, just as a student and managing a bunch of other stuff in my life and a full schedule and things like that, this has been the best education I've gotten, because you oversee an entire, it's a small business, but it's an entire business nonetheless. So I don't know if any of you guys are actually really interested in starting your own business, but it's not as difficult as a lot of people like to make it seem. It just takes a step, like we say, move the ball forward a little bit every day. And that's really the important piece. Is like, you don't have to you don't have to climb the mountain in a week or a month. It's just like a little bit every day, and soon enough, you start seeing fruits from your
It's interesting you're speaking about the marketing piece and how it's a company of guys that are marketing as like a women's clothing thing. One thing that when you're on the other side of the curtain of like trying to influence people to buy and doing the marketing, the entire area is fake. Like honestly, every site that's out there was someone with a motive, whether it to be to sell or to like influence or all of that. Because people don't just make websites anymore. I'm generalization. Some people are authentic, but I'll give you a good example of. I have a buddy who was doing this 2 years before I was, and his company is called Cave Tools, and he started out with a barbecue grilling brush. So he was trying to be an online marketer, like a freelance marketer, and he was making claims like, oh, I can take your product, I can make it sell, I can make it a hit. And every time he would say to someone, I want to sell this, they go, well, do you have a portfolio? Like, have you done this before? And he's like, oh, well, I did it for this guy, but not really. And so he kept getting rejected. So why don't I just do it with something simple like a grill brush? And so he started doing it on Amazon, marketed it, and started doing all this stuff. And now he has like, his company is doing really well. He's like a multi-millionaire. Well, I shouldn't say multi-millionaire. His company is selling multi-million dollars of sales. I don't know how much money he's actually making, but what's interesting that he did, it blew my mind. So he is an expert marketer, and so what he does is he set up an authority website. So he has grilling tools, grill accessories, spatulas, meat thermometers, those bear claw things that cut meat. So in order to establish his credibility, he set up an entirely independent site called Grill Masters or Pit Masters University. And so this website is dedicated to just teaching people how to grill. And so it's got recipes, it's got a community, it's like all this stuff. And he fakes a whole community. None of it's real. He has some virtual assistants in the Philippines that comment and like actively write on their message boards. Fakes the whole thing. What he does is he established himself as the grilling authority, and then he recommends so he'll recommend like top 5 grilling sets if you're new to grilling. It'll be like Weber, Craftsman, and Cave Tools will always be either number 1 or like in the top 5. And so he set this whole website up with the intent to get people to buy, and what he does is he drives all this traffic. Oh, if you want a free ebook of all these secret recipes to become a really good cook, give us your email. And so he'll use that to market to people. And it blows my mind that he faked the whole. He doesn't even care about grilling that much. It's just that he needed some credibility to his existing product line. So every Christmas a list of like top 10 grilling companies, and he's like, we don't always win, but we're always in the top 5. And so he'll drive all that traffic to then his Amazon listing, and people are like, oh wow, I read how good and authentic they were, and then they buy. And when you start seeing that the internet's run by, like, as soon as you realize every website was made with someone with motivation to do so, lots of money, it really opens your eyes of like, you can't trust a lot on the internet.
That's not what John and I are saying. I know
we're not doing it, by the way.
We don't do that.
I think that's really shady, and I don't.
There's just a lot of, when you look at the other side of the curtain, there's like a lot of shady stuff going on. But we like try to like actually provide like real products, real customer service. I think it's just bringing attention and being transparent with all you guys, saying that like that a lot of what you're seeing is this, and that it is I don't think that's the right way to do business, but it is real, and that it just kind of shows the power of marketing. That was the point I was trying to illustrate, is that it just really shows that like half of it is marketing, but I think to do it in an ethical way is pretty unethical things. So.
Yeah, and a lot of it's marketing, but you can't take a crap product and like you can take a crap product and you can market it and do a really good job, but the problem is that's not sustainable because people are going to figure it out, then they're going to start to review it, and then they're going to, you can't sustainably do it. You need to start with a quality, well-built product of something that is really great customer service, like is really well thought out, and if you can create that product, marketing can take that from like a 7 to like a 10, whereas, and that's sustainable because once you get up there, Amazon rewards people who repeat buy. So like if you get them to buy once and they buy again, it means that they had a good experience, and that's kind of where you can't do that. If you're trying to take shortcuts and market junk, like I just don't think that's the way to run a business. So, how are we on time for the class? 4 minutes left? Okay. Any last questions from anyone who, or we can wrap it up? Yeah, so, oh, good.
Have you ever thought about, given the demographics and a lot of baby boomers, have you ever thought about going after baby boomers who have a successful product, want to kind of get out of the business, and don't have the acumen to do this? Buy the rights to their products and
No, but that is a really good, that's a great idea because honestly, that's really, there's so many people who want online and don't know how, who are baby boomer generation that, yeah, it's just finding the right person who has a quality product. What I found from looking around is that all of the quality products are now made in China, so it's, yeah, like it used to be built here, and now we don't have that anymore, and so it's very hard, like if they have a direct channel to China to get the product in, then yeah, you could market the heck out of it and make it a really good success. It's finding the right contacts, and honestly, we just don't have those, I guess. So one last question, or? Okay, well, so this has been great. I'm really glad to come here. Brendan and I, like I said, we run the business together, and we're happy to help other entrepreneurs who are aspiring. So after class, I guess we'll go to the classroom and if anyone wants to ask questions or learn more about it or get in contact with us, feel free to stop by, and we're happy to answer anything else you might be wondering. So appreciate the time and glad to come back, and hope you guys learned something. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.